If you are an Indian applying for a Mexico visa, I strongly recommend you watch this video till the very end. I have tried my best to explain every single common scenario that you may undergo for both self and dependents. I specifically talk about name mismatches and how to make clear documentations for your Mexico visa. Please watch the video till the end as I also talk about workarounds for some cases. These workaround does not apply to everyone, but it is something you should at least understand before deciding your next step. This is Senor Desi from Aadhaar to Cup, your India to Mexico migration plan consultant. Subscribe and follow me to know more about moving and living in Mexico. Some Indians get their Mexico visa rejected even when they meet all the eligibility criteria. Good salary, stable job, sufficient savings, everything looks correct on paper. Yet the visa gets refused. This creates confusion and frustration, especially when no clear reason is explained. This problem affects Indians more than many other nationalities because our documents are issued by different authorities at different times with slightly different formats. In India, we are used to adjusting and explaining these differences. I understand that these minor differences make our country more secular, and I'm so proud of that. But embassies do not work that way. Let me be very clear about one thing. For Mexico visas, your passport is the only source of truth. Not Aadhaar, not PAN, not bank records, not company letters. The passport is final, and everything else must match it exactly. This rule does not apply only to you as the main applicant. The moment you include dependents, the level of name verification increases significantly, and multiple documents are cross-checked against each other. If you are applying for your spouse, the embassy does not just look at your spouse's passport in isolation. The spouse's name in their passport is compared with the applicant name mentioned in your passport, if present, and it is also compared directly with the marriage certificate. All three must align. If the marriage certificate shows a different name format, spelling, or surname, and a passport shows something else, it immediately creates inconsistency. If you are applying with children, the verification becomes even more detailed. The child's passport contains the parents' names in the parent name field. These names are compared against the parents' passports. At the same time, the child's birth certificate is checked, where both parents' names are listed. This means the child's passport, the parents' passports, and the child's birth certificate must all tell the same story, with matching spellings and name order. If you are applying for your parents as dependents, the embassy looks at the parents' passports and compares those names with the parents' names mentioned in your passport. These names are then cross-verified with your birth certificate, where your parents' names are officially recorded. If your passport says one version of your father's or mother's name and your birth certificate says another, that mismatch becomes a problem. In simple terms, for dependents, the embassy does not check one document at a time. They check the relationship chain. Passports are compared against certificates, and certificates are compared against passports. If any link in that chain does not match exactly, the application becomes risky. That is why, when dependents are involved, name consistency is not optional. It is critical. Fixing these issues before applying is far safer than trying to explain them later. Let's deep dive on the common issues related to this. The most common reason for rejection is spelling mismatch. Indians usually ignore small spelling differences because we deal with them all our lives. But embassies cannot ignore them, even if the difference looks minor. For example, in the passport, the surname is written as Kumar, Kumar, with a single A. But in the PAN card, it is written as Kumar, Kumar, with double A. To us, this is obviously the same person. But to the Mexican embassy, these are two different spellings, and I don't blame them for that. Embassy officers are not allowed to assume intent or pronunciation. They only verify written records. When two official documents show two different spellings, it creates doubt. And once doubt exists, rejecting the application becomes safer than approving it. Another very common Indian issue is initials. Your passport may say Suresh Ramesh Iyer. Your bank statement might say SR Iyer. Your salary slip might say Suresh Iyer. These are three different representations of the same person. In India, this is perfectly acceptable. Banks and companies are fine with it. But for Mexico visas, the embassy expects one clear legal identity. They will trust only the passport format. Anything else looks incomplete or inconsistent. Another problem is name order. Your passport may say Rahul Kumar Sharma. Your bank letter might say Sharma Rahul Kumar. Your company records might say RK Sharma. All refer to you, but the order keeps changing. Embassy officers do not rearrange names in their head. They do not try to decode Indian naming logic. They simply compare documents. If the order does not match, it raises a red flag. Now let's talk about spouses, because this affects many families. After marriage, many Indians change surnames. But for Mexico visas, this can create serious problems if not planned carefully. For example, before marriage, the spouse's name is Anita Rav. The marriage certificate also shows Anita Rav. Later, the passport is updated to Anita Sharma. Now the marriage certificate and passport do not match. The embassy cannot automatically assume that Anita Rav and Anita Sharma are the same person. This becomes even more sensitive when the spouse is applying as a dependent. That is why my sincere recommendation is, if you are planning to move to Mexico with your spouse, do not rush to change surnames in the passport. This is not about culture or tradition. It is about documentation consistency. A clean, matching document set is always safer than a document set that requires explanation. Another issue I see often is missing middle names. Your passport may say Amit Rajesh Patel, but your bank statement says Amit Patel. The middle name is missing. In India, this is normal. For embassies, it is not. Some people ask me whether an affidavit can solve these issues. A few years back, lawyer affidavits stating one and the same person, even when apostilled, was sometimes accepted. But this practice has largely stopped. Today, self-attested letters do not work. Lawyer affidavits do not work. The Mexican embassy expects original documents to be corrected, not explained away. The correct solution is to finalize your passport name first. That becomes your master record. Then you update all other documents, banks, employer records, and government databases to match the passport exactly. Yes, it is time consuming, but it is the safest route. Delaying your application is always better than getting a rejection. A rejection stays on record. A delay does not. This is something many applicants realize only after facing a refusal. Once your documents match your passport, it is a very good practice to get them apostilled through the Ministry of External Affairs, especially for marriage certificates, birth certificates, and other civil documents. This improves clarity and acceptance. I have personally seen cases where salary was strong, savings was sufficient, and eligibility was clear. But a small name mismatch alone was enough to get the visa rejected. This is why I am stressing this so much. This is not personal. The embassy is not rejecting you as a person. They are rejecting inconsistency in documentation. Once you understand this mindset, the entire visa process becomes easier to approach. Now, if you are completely exhausted from changing names across multiple Indian documents, there may be a workaround. But this applies only for dependents, meaning parents, spouse, and children. It is a long process, not guaranteed, and approval depends entirely on the immigration officer. It is not something I recommend casually, but it is something you should understand. Explaining that workaround properly requires a full separate video because it has risks, limitations, and conditions. If you want me to explain that option in detail, honestly, without false promises, comment below and let me know. And subscribe to Seno Desi, because from Aadhaar to Curb, you should not figure this out the hard way.